Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining our virtual talk today. We ask that through this talk, you just keep yourself muted. If you do have any questions or comments, we ask that you type them in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. Our speaker will be happy to address any of the questions or comments at the end of the program. If you're joining us over Facebook Live, we welcome you as well. Our Facebook audience can also ask questions using the comment section on Facebook. We will be monitoring those questions and answering those comments and questions at the end of the program as well. And we just ask that you please note that this talk is being recorded and live streamed and will be posted to our social media channels once the talk is over. If you would like to rewatch this talk or watch any previous virtual tours and talks, please check out our YouTube or our Facebook pages. I'm very excited to introduce our speaker, Michelle, to you. Her talk is entitled An Inside View of Giotto, the Scrovegni Chapel. Thank you, Michelle. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Kyla. Hi, good morning. I'm here to talk about the Scrovegni Chapel in Padua, Italy. Giotto di Bondone was born in 1267 in Mugello. He trained with Florentine painter Cimabue and participated in the frescoes project of the Basilica of St. Francis at Assisi. Giotto was called the father of Renaissance. He focused on emotion and natural representation of the human figures. The Scrovegni Chapel is a small building in a courtyard of a convent, which frescoes depicts the life of the Virgin Mary and the life of Christ. It is known as one of the supreme masterpieces of the early Renaissance. In 2016, my family and I stayed for 1 week in Padua. We found it very convenient as it is located near Venice. Little we knew about the city. We were guided by a friend that lived there. Nevertheless, we found Padua a beautiful city. We discovered the Basilica of St. Anthony, the saint of the poor and the sick, the oldest botanical garden in the world, founded in 1545, the second oldest university of Italy, founded in 1222, and the Scrovegni Chapel, built in 1305, which I just fell in love with Giotto work and frescoes. Sorry. The Scrovegni Chapel, also known as the Arena Chapel, is a small church adjacent to the Augustinian monastery. The chapel and monastery are now part of the complex Museo Civico of Padua. The Arena Chapel was commissioned to Giotto by an affluent Paduan banker, Enrico Scrovegni. In early 1300s, Enrico purchased the area on which a Roman arena had stood. Here, he had his luxurious palace built, as well as a chapel annexed to it. The chapel's project was twofold: to serve as a family's private oratory and as a funerary monument for himself and his wife. Enrico commissioned Giotto to paint the chapel dedicated to the life of Mary. Next, I will show you each one of the frescoes inside. Let's start with the stories of Joachim and Anne. The scenes are composed of 6 touching episodes in the life of Christ's maternal grandparents, Joachim and Anne. Their figures are human, and the intensity of the feelings, the strength of the affection, and the immediacy of the emotions make us realize that Christ's maternal grandparents' experience of life is very close to our own. The expulsion of Joachim from the temple, the second image, is itinerary. The itinerary begins with the scene constructed around the temple in Jerusalem, a compact and easily recognized building with a holy of holies or inner sanctum, surrounded by high marble balustrade, spiral columns, and a pulpit with steps leading up to it. A halo around his head, Joachim looks at the priest intensely. His expression is a mixture of dependency, sadness, and anxiety. Joachim among the shepherds. The old man's affliction is expressed superbly through his bent shoulders, the head of sorrowful meditation way. This is sharply contrasted by the small white dog welcoming with him joyfully. Giotto takes us to understand that the animal is capable of perceiving human feelings and is trying to comfort the sad Joachim. The Annunciation to Anne. While Joachim is in the desert, Anne, who has no news of her husband, is very worried and upset. After two scenes set in public places, featuring only male figures, Giotto introduces an episode that takes place in the privacy of a home and is predominantly feminine. Saint Anne, kneeling in prayer, is visited by an angel who appears through the small window to tell her that she will soon be with a child. Outside the room, on a covered balcony, there is a woman busy spinning. Joachim's sacrifice. Joachim makes his entrance again to sacrifice a goat. The prostrate himself before the altar. Behind him, a shepherd is praying. God and Father appears in the sky in the form of a blessing hand. On the right, an angel appears unseen. The sheep are engaged in all kinds of activities like sleeping, grazing, or locking horns. Over here, it's the hand of God and this is the angel. Joachim's dream. In this scene, Joachim must survive a deserted, infertile terrain where only a few goats can find grazing. The white dog is alert, contrasting the deep sleep of Joachim, and an angel appears in the sky to announce to Joachim in a dream to tell him he will be a father. The angel is standing out against the blue sky is famous. Since Giotto has given consistency and volume to the angel's face, wings, arm, and torso, but made another half of the body disappear with a remarkable softness. Meeting at the Golden Gate, one of the most innovative and bold scenes in the whole cycle shows Joachim returning home after the period spent in the desert. The love kiss exchanged by the elderly married couple who had wrinkles and a gray hair. This is an extremely profound and touching image, filled with warmth and tenderness, which defies the passing of time. On one side, within the city, there are women in rich attire. On the other, towards the countryside, a peasant comes into view carrying a basket and a stick. Note that between the arch, there is a mysterious woman in black. This same woman appears in the scene depicted Christ's entrance into Jerusalem. The story of Mary are episodes of her childhood and youth, but are based on the golden legend and the popular traditions. The scene in which Mary appears as a child are very lively and animated. For example, the Nativity of the Virgin. In the first scene of that series, we find Anna's square bedroom, again, where instead of being simple and secluded, as in the Annunciation, now is full of life and joyful female activity. Anne is in the bed with striped coverlet, where a midwife is placing the newborn Mary in her outreached hands. The other two women busy in the door transitioning the exterior and the interior. The baby girl appears twice in the same scene. In the foreground, a woman has wrapped little Mary in swathing bands after bathing her and is playful pinching her nose. Above is about to take up the baby in her arms. This image remembers me of the Timken collection Petrus Christus, in which the transition of exterior and interior occurs. Mary, the presentation of Mary at the temple. In this episode, little Mary leaves her parents, recognizable by her halos, climbs the steps and is welcomed by the priest of the temple, where she will reside. Her determination to leave her parents surprised everyone. Next to Joachim, we recognize the elderly priest Simeon with a flowing gray beard. Over here. This is Simeon. The consignation of the rods. The sequence devotes to the marriage of Mary and Joseph begins here. Giotto has based his scenes on one of the Gospels. Mary is now an adolescent and a consecrated virgin at the temple. All the marriageable men of the tribe of Judah consign a rod to the high priest and the scribe clothed in green. The miraculous flowering of one of these sticks will identify the man who is to marry Mary. On the far left stands Joseph, wearing a blue robe, yellow mantle, and a halo. The suitors praying. The high priest, recognizable by his rich and red cloak, and the suitors are kneeling, praying for the divine intervention that will make one of the rods on the altar burst into a flower. The scene is enveloped in silence as they all wait for the miracles of sign. Here's Joseph with his halo. Marriage of the Virgin. In this scene, Joseph is holding the stick at the end in which a lily has blossomed, on which the dove symbolizes the Holy Spirit. Mary shyly allows Joseph to place the wedding ring on her finger. On the right, inside the holy building, the three women and the scribe are following the scene closely, while on the left, the suitors outside of the temple are distracted. Mary returns to Nazareth. This is one of the least preserved panels. Mary is separated from others and still wearing her wedding gown. Various young women are walking behind her. Their loose hair indicates they are not yet married. while the group of musicians greets the Madonna. There is an architectural structure that transitions between this scene to the other. The Annunciation, triumphal arch. The large figures of the Archangel Gabriel, Gabriel Archangel, and the Madonna receiving the Annunciation stands out in the triumphal arch of the chapel, guiding the visitor's eye to the next scene depicting episodes in Jesus' childhood. The two scenes are framed in perspective by an architectural structure with open balconies, supported by a large corbels and typically Gothic windows. The illusionistic treatment of the curtains, which are both pulled back and looped around slender, column is identical fashion creates an extraordinary realistic effect. Over here, this is the curtains. God the Father charges the Archangel Gabriel with giving the Annunciation to Mary in the triumphal arch. The image on the crown of the arch at the end of the nave, together with the scene painted in the shoulder of the arch, act as a link, the cornerstone and a key of understanding the three sequins along the side walls. An austere image of God the Father takes on a sacred solemnity. Surrounded by the angels, he gazes down from his throne, suspended in the sky, and entrusts Gabriel with the task of the Annunciation. The stories of Christ. Christ is the protagonist, but we must remember that the chapel itself is dedicated to the Madonna. So she always plays an important part in the events. So she always, this sequence occupies both sides of the chapel, starting with the birth of Jesus and ending with the scene in which Judas receives the bag of silver for betraying Christ. The Nativity, where Mary, and this first slide, first fresco in this slide, the Nativity, Mary's gesture of settling the newborn Christ child as she lies on a pallet, while Joseph falls asleep from exhaustion, and the rough shepherd, wrapped in plain cloths, looked questioningly at the angels, derives from Giotto's observation of life, rather than painting traditional. The Adoration of the Magi, the fresco near, the masterly balance between the pleasing narrative details and the characters' sober concentration, makes this one of the most celebrated scenes in the cycle. Giotto's unique detail in the history of art is the comet above the stable, which is not a stylized star, but a faithful reproduction of the Halley's comet that appeared in the sky a few years before the frescoes were executed. As always, Giotto places the gospel. The Presentation at the temple. Here Giotto draws the temple with slender spiral columns supporting the sharp, firm point of the ceiling. Saint Joseph, on the left, is holding two doves, and Simeon holds Jesus on the right. Here Mary entrusts her newborn son to the priest Simeon, and the baby Jesus kicks his legs and looks worriedly at the old man with the bushy beard who is holding him in the arms. Simeon at the temple is the just and devout, and his name means to hear, to be heard. Flight into Egypt. Giotto sets this episode in a similar landscape than before, in the simple and essential, reduced to a few elements like rocks and trees, but a defined path and slow-paced peregrination heading to Egypt. The symbolism of the colors has been somewhat faded. The rich blue of Mary's mantle is now a neutral, grayish color. The donkey's face has a humoristic style, while Joseph's face appears worried, asking a traveler for directions, who, in his return, is receiving instructions from the angel in flight. The slaughter of the innocent. I find this fresco pretty aggressive, but Giotto's compositional and stylistic coherence can be admired throughout the Scrovegni cycle. Here we can see a group of weeping mothers, which expression is standardized compared to that of the solidly framed Herodes, looking down from the loggia. There is no doubt that Giotto relied on assistance in executing some scenes. This one, for example. The women has the same features in their face. The children corpses in the center is treated in an exaggerated, generic manner. By contrast, the dynamic figure of the executioner has extraordinary energy and impact. In the middle of the purple one, he is depicted as he sees the leg of a little boy who tries to free himself and seek refuge in his mother's arms, an image that slowly represents that brutality. Christ among the doctors. This panel marks an important transition. It's the first scene set entirely in an interior, namely a vast hall with arches and columns. The 12-year-old Jesus is immersed in discussion with the elders, whereas Mary and Joseph are worried sick because they have not seen him for 3 days. Mary's gesture is touching as she rushes forward with her arms outstretching, while the men gather, learning from the young boy in the temple. Baptism of Christ. The interior scene is followed by an austere river landscape. St. John the Baptist, one in red, who was 30 years old at the time, is standing in a rock with his camel hair rope, sticks out his hand, making a cross on Christ's head. The Jordan crystal clear water rises over Christ's torso, while a group of angels on the left are holding out garments and towels. In the sky, the presence of God, the Father, can be discerned by an explosion of light. The wedding at Cana. In the Gospel account, Jesus Christ, his mother, and his disciples are invited to a wedding. When his mother notices that the wine has run out, Jesus delivers the first miracle by changing water into wine at the wedding banquet. Giotto focuses on a crucial moment, the fatal tasting of a miraculous wine by the masters of ceremony. The corpulent sommelier on the right drinks a large goblet of wine instead of a taste. With the refined humor, Giotto mirrors the drinker's belly with the jars in front. The raising of Lazarus. The raising of Lazarus is a miracle of Christ, recounted only in the Gospel of John, in which Jesus raises Lazarus of Bethany from the dead 4 days later after his entombment. This is a crowded scene in which the sisters Martha and Mary are kneeling in front of Christ's feet, and on their right, 2 assistants are shifting the large rectangular stone that sealed Lazarus' tomb. The corpse still wrapped in bandages, and the 2 people covered their noses and faces due to the odor. Very realistic moment, for my opinion. Entering to Jerusalem. Again, the charming donkey taking the Holy Family on their way to Egypt. Christ approaches the gate of Jerusalem with its Romanesque style towers and has an inner arch painted of gold. 2 people have climbed trees to get a better view. Giotto creates a very powerful contrast between the slow, serious, pensive figures of the disciples who are following Christ and the jubilant, festive crowd waving olive trees branches to greet the Lord. A male and female figures taking off their cloaks to lay down in front of the donkey. Pretty awkward scene, for my opinion. And at the left, you can see all the disciples has their halos in their heads. The expulsion of the money changers from the temple. In this scene, I find an architectural element of the temple stands out. The detail of the columns, the use of different stone, the lions and horses on the pediment are tribute to the lions of St. Mark in Venice, and the horses from Constantinople in Rome. In this episode, Jesus drove the money changers out of the tax collectors and said, "My house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." On the right, a bearded figure talking to each other are the priest Caiaphas, dressed in red, and Annas, dressed in green. On the left, St. Peter stands out among the group of apostles. He bears a marked resemblance of Joachim and St. Joseph to make the narrative easier to follow. The trade of Judas. The passage tells us that when Judas took the 30 pieces of silver for betraying Christ, Satan entered him in the form of a black devil. The yellowish mantle is a color that was associated with lies and betrayal. Again, at the scene, the high priest Caiaphas in red and Annas in green. Now we have the stories of the Passion that starts with the Last Supper and the washing of the feet. These two paintings take place on the same room. They are both enclosed in an emotional silence with calm gestures and restraint as they know the sentence of the death of Christ. Now no. Giotto delineates a very plain rectangular room with slender columns supporting the ceiling that has refined details. The apostles are sitting on long benches, each one with a different color of cloths. In Christ's chest leans John, with a face of sorrow when asked which of them was the traitor. I highlight here the realism of the scene by seating some apostles backwards, making them part of the viewers. This one's here. This is the first time, Last Supper, where they are giving the back to the audience, and they're really inside what is happening in the table. While in the other scene, the ritual of washing the feet, where Christ kneels in front of Peter, who is sitting in a chair that symbolizes the primacy of Peter over the other disciples. We can see in both scenes the preservation of the halo. Christ is bright, shiny gold, while the others are less precious colors. The Kiss of Judas. The dramatic scene is one of the first examples of nocturnal settings, with torches and clocks waving in the dark sky. The soldiers marching in from the right, while in the opposite side, Peter waves a knife over here, seeking to defend Christ. All the figures are moving agitatively, except Christ and Judas. Christ's noble face seems to crush Judas, who is wearing the yellow cloak, contrasting the shiny gold halo of Christ. Christ before Caiaphas. Caiaphas asked Christ, "Are you the Messiah?" Christ replied, "I am." To express his disapproval of blaspheming, the high priest Caiaphas melodramatically rents his garments. Let's highlight the colors pigments: the pink, the orange, the green, and the very costly ultramarine blues are pigments that arrive from Venice, arrive to Venice from all over the Mediterranean and given to Giotto in Padua. The flagellation. This scene is famous because there is a young black man with a very dark skin among the whippers. His presence is unusual. This young Moor is depicted in the middle of the scene between Pontius Pilates and Christ, who is receiving the torture in resignated silence. The road to Calvary. This panel is clearly in a poor state of preservation due to the infiltration of humidity. The scene is a sober and the arrangement of the characters quite unusual. A close group of people on the left leaves Christ in a dramatic solitude, carrying the cross, which stands out against the sky. He leads the road to Calvary. You can feel the solitude of Christ in this scene, carrying his cross. This is one of my favorite scenes, the crucifixion and mourning the dead Christ. Giotto is anchored in humanity. Torment, anguish, and desperation are all experienced in these two frescoes. On the right, a group with a Madonna fainting and a woman kneeling before Christ's feet in pain, while on the left, a group of Roman soldiers. I think I did it wrong. On the left is the Madonna, and on the right is the soldier, sorry. Roman soldiers contrasting between God and bad, good and bad. Nevertheless, there is a figure with a halo, the unnamed Roman soldier Longinus, who converts to Christianity the moment Christ dies. These two scenes are one of the most famous in the chapel. The emotional intensity and the angels in the sky in desperation and full of sorrow. Here is the soldier Longinus between the good and the bad. And as well, we repeat the backwards, how he makes this scene more into the scene, like in the viewer, inside the viewer. Let's take a close look of the angels. This is a beautiful scene, how he can do the sorrow, how they can look at the eyes, and how she has her hands near her face. Look at the hands of this angel, how it's like desperate of sorrow. These hands are like, why? Asking why, what is happening? This angel, how he's like, doesn't understand, desperate, and the sorrow. These are two beautiful, beautiful scenes where all the angels has all these emotions that are happening to Christ in the crucifixion. That's why I did the close-up look, because it's beautiful. Okay, moving forward. The Ascension. Two symmetrical hosts of angels combined figures of the Old Testament accompany Christ as he rises towards heaven. Giotto at the Acts of the Apostles, Christ is partially concealed by a cloud and disappearing. Even his hands are already outside the frame. He gives us this, really feeling he's leaving, he's ascending. And two angels address Mary and the apostles, all who continue to stare at the sky, even though they can no longer see Christ. Pentecost. The last scene in the cycle, the descent of the Holy Ghost in the form of a fiery rays upon the apostles. It's a final episode of Christ's incarnation. This panel is one of the most interesting because of the perspective Giotto uses. He sets the scene in an open Gothic pavilion with ogis arch supported by slender columns. It accentuates the perspective box effect by hiding some of the faces of the apostles over here. And it's really a almost three-dimensional perspective, which is the last judgment. When you leave the Scrovegni Chapel, you're going to see this huge panel. This is a complete Dantesque scene, very similar to our Timken collection, The Last Judgment. The whole scene pivots on the serene gesture of Christ, the judge. He is surrounded by a halo of light from which angels and trumpets emerge. In the lower left, we recognize the scene of the resurrection of the flesh, with the dead climbing out of their tombs. In the lower right, a river of fire to hell. The Inferno's darkness is dominated by Lucifer, a cross of dragon, ape, and serpent, engaged in devouring, digesting, and expelling some of the damned, surrounded by countless violent details. I'm going to show you a close look of this beautiful Last Judgment. Here the souls getting out of the tomb, looking for redemption. And here is the Lucifer devouring the souls with the red river and hell. Well, with this last scene, I conclude my presentation of the Scrovegni Chapel. I hope you liked it. And if you have any questions, please, or want to go back to any of the scenes, please let me know. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you, Michelle, for this wonderful presentation. It was so lovely to, it felt like we were in the chapel itself, walking through. It was really fun and interesting. We did get a question a while back asking, is it the same angel that appears before Anne and Mary? I know that for Mary it was the angel Gabriel. Is it also that for the Annunciation? Is that the same one?
Let me go back. I believe Saint Angel Gabriel is the one, the same angel.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is, but I don't know if Didi is in the chat. He can tell us with more exactitude if it's really Saint Angel Gabriel, the one that annunciates to Anne and to Mary. But I'm almost sure that it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then I'm I think we'll trust you on that one. We also have another comment that says, in the story of Jesus in the temple, lecturing Mary and Joseph, it seems to be like crudely painted, which.
Let me go to the story of Jesus. Okay, this is here, where he's telling all the, What was the question? Sorry.
I don't think it's a question. I'm getting more of like a general comment, just that they're crudely painted. Do you think this is, I guess I have a question. Do you think that's because of like just like the chapel wearing down over time and conservation?
Yes, it is. There's a lot of humidity actually. To get inside, you have to go through doors that really gives this sense of getting all bacterial from you. And so it has his to enter it has a lot of like steps because of the problem that has been the frescoes with time. But yes, you can see a lot of color is fading actually here. You can only like look at this blue. This is the blue of all Mary's clock, really, but it's already faded and it's like a very brownish. It's well preserved, but it's too old. And the humidity hasn't helped. So yes. Over here we can see as well the clock, the blue clock, and here how she has all this blue, where it was blue in the past. And here's a comet, the Halley comet. I'm not sure if you saw it when I gave the presentation.
Yeah. That's crazy that the cloak had faded that much. Like,
yeah,
it's almost hardly recognizable, but it's cool that we still have the little scraps of the color.
Yes, exactly.
We have another question, which was, how long did it take to paint?
To paint the Scrovegni? Finished in 1305, and 4 to 5 years, I believe. I would need to look at my writings, but it was, I would need to look at that, but probably 4 to 5 years, because it says more of when it was finished. It's in 1300, the banker Enrico Scrovegni had purchased so yes, like 5 years, because he purchased the he made the chapel and then gave it to Giotto to paint it. So pretty quick for the time.
Yeah. And then we also have another question about, like, how did this chapel revolutionize other artists? Like, do we know how this influenced other artists of the time?
Well, yes, Giotto had like this first painter perspective, that he had, like I mentioned, the feelings of the people and how he can express this in the angels, like this sorrow. That was something that it wasn't very much painted before. And the three-dimensional rooms, and how, as I said, how the people from the room, they're not all looking at you, they are looking inside of what is happening, almost like if they were the viewers of the scene. That's something new as well for the for early 1300s. And he was really very revolutionized to paint, new way of painting. That's why it's one of the best for me chapels. I almost say like it's like the Sixtine Chapel of 1300s, because it's pretty nice and a lot of information you can see of that.
All right, well, that is all the questions I'm seeing so far. So we want to just thank you again to Michelle once again for this wonderful presentation. And thank you to all of you in our audience for joining us today. We hope you can join us again next Thursday for another virtual talk. This one will be on the origins of landscape painting. But that is it for now. So thank you and bye.
Thank you.